Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Mark Becker with Cathexis Partners, and I think people are still joining, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And thank you very much for joining us today. The session today is getting started with WordPress for your nonprofit's website. And let's go ahead and jump right in. This is going to be kind of a conversation between myself and Jim. As we're going through this, just a couple of housekeeping notes. We are going to be recording this and sending out the recording after the fact. So for any coworkers you want to share this with, or if you want to review it later on, that will be available to you. And there is a Q&A area in the control panel where you can ask questions as you think of them, or if you have questions in advance, feel free to ask those. We should have plenty of time at the end to answer any questions. Everybody else will be on mute except for ourselves, just to save sanity and background noise and all of that. But we do want to hear from you, and we do want to make this as interactive as possible. So feel free to ask your questions as you think of them, and we'll be sure to get to all of them. And if you can't hear me, I just got a note saying someone can't hear me. I was going to say, well, try your audio, but if you can't hear me, that's not going to work. So let me just quickly type in here. If you can't hear, try dialing in instead. But again, we are recording this, so definitely feel free to either click in via your computer audio or dialing in, and hopefully everybody can hear. And if you can't, then we'll be able to hear this after the fact. So once again, my name is Mark Becker. I'm the founding partner of Cathexis Partners, and we've been in business for just over 12 years now. We've been a virtual team since before it was cool, before it was the trend. We've been virtual the entire time. It just helps keep our overhead low and makes our prices more affordable to nonprofits. And we help nonprofits in a variety of ways to use technology to raise funds and to engage their supporters effectively and affordably. And so today we want to talk about WordPress and how that can help you do those things. Also with us today is Jim. Jim, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Jim Jasper. I've been working with nonprofits, building and designing websites in all sorts of technologies since about 1996.
Excellent. So again, we're going to have a kind of a Q&A session where I'm going to be asking Jim questions, and he's going to be answering them. I've asked him these over the years as we've worked together, and he's helped me a lot understanding all this. So we're going to talk about what WordPress is, why should nonprofits choose WordPress, and what are WordPress themes, and what do they do? And what's the difference between off-the-shelf and custom, pros and cons and considerations when considering a different theme. And then any other questions that you might have at all, again, feel free to ask those in the question area, and we'll get to those at the end. All right, so Jim, you want to start us off by telling us what WordPress is?
Sure. WordPress is maybe a couple of decades old by now. It started out as a blog tool, and there was a time, which many of you probably remember, when blogs were really the thing. They were sort of the thing that Twitter is now. As blogs, which are really kind of like online journals, blog is short for weblog. As blogs became kind of less and less important on a in the way that we communicate on the web with each other, WordPress adapted. It had already started changing, but there's a very vigorous and large community of developers who started changing WordPress from blog software into what we'd call a content management system, or CMS for short. And I would say that now most people who use WordPress do use probably maybe some of the blog functionality, but mostly people use it to manage content, and it's great for that. this statistic here that it powers more than 38% of the web. That's according to WordPress.org. You get a hint there because it's WordPress.org that WordPress is a nonprofit group. It's really kind of a consortium of all sorts of volunteers who write code, and they make that code open source. So the core WordPress technology is open source, which means that you can modify it in any way, but maybe more importantly, it's free. What are the advantages of open source technology? One, okay, the obvious one is that it's free. I'm not going to get into that, but because it's open source, there's a big community of developers who can look under the hood, see how the core technology is built, and either make suggestions and provide examples of how that core technology should change and what new things it should embrace, or they can simply decide to add to it by creating what are called plugins. Plugins add to the core WordPress functionality. So there are plugins for forms, there are plugins for e-commerce, there are plugins for almost anything you can imagine, and many of them are free. Some of them are what we call premium, which means that you pay. Generally, when you pay to get free updates and some kind of technical support from the developers. Any questions about that, Mark?
No, I like it. Good stuff. And I could go off on all kinds of tangents about, it being free and, keep that in mind. But, it can be free like a puppy, right? Because you still have to take care of it and there's work to be done. But if you have the skills, or if you, have resources either internally or, working with an agency such as ourselves, we can help you set that up, and it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. And you can be up and running inexpensively and really own your site and not have a lot of monthly recurring costs associated with that. So good stuff. All right, so let's talk about, in addition to all that, some of the benefits of using WordPress.
The first one, I think, and the reason why it's so popular is that it is inexpensive. People like the open source idea. It's really sort of what the web was meant to be, in a sense, in the early days. And this is one of the cases where that early idealism of how web technologies should work has persisted. And WordPress, even though it's very powerful and widely used, is still very inexpensive to use. You may choose to buy a plugin here and there, but plugins are maybe $60 a year for the more functional, more mission critical type plugins. So because of that, there are a lot of people who've had exposure to WordPress, either as content managers or as developers, lots of different ways, also as users. A WordPress site, not all WordPress sites look like each other, but there are maybe some areas when you get into making comments on pages and things like that where they're similar to each other. So I think there's sort of a critical mass with WordPress now. And it means that if you have a WordPress site and you need to do something to it, or just keep it going, or just have someone add content here and there, it's not going to be hard to find that. Add to that it's just out of the box, pretty easy to make content updates and getting easier all the time. you will find that you can have more of your staff participate in your website than if you were using a more a different kind of more content management system that might be more geared to a technical user. So the other thing that goes along with that is that with a lot of content management systems and database tools and things like that, you pay per user or you pay per seat for someone who's going to be able to have an account in order to do editing and updates. WordPress being open source, there really aren't limitations like that. And so some organizations very creatively have even opened up areas of their site to participation from users or board members, or, there are all sorts of ways that WordPress can become collaborative because of the ease of use and the ability to have more licenses. But maybe the coolest thing about WordPress, the thing that that I like the best, is the whole plugin, what people sometimes refer to as an ecosystem. All of these plugins are available, and so when a client comes to me and says something like, well, we need to put one of those strips at the bottom of the page that tell people that we use cookies, and it stays there until they click on it and then it goes away. So my first response is, well, let's see if there's a plugin that does that. Of course, there will be, 12 of them. And my job is to choose the best one and implement it in a graceful, hopefully a nice looking, nicely designed way. So it's not a matter of writing a new feature or bumping my head against the wall because it can't be done. It's usually there, it's usually available, and it's almost always pretty inexpensive or free. Back to you, Mark.
I like it. Good stuff. Yeah, so let's get into, what are WordPress themes and how are they used?
Right, I've talked a lot about plugins as adding functionality to a WordPress site, but really the very basic ground level part of a WordPress site that all WordPress sites have to have is a theme. And you will see with this screenshot here on this slide a number of different themes. You'll see that some of them are called 2020, 2017, 2019. Every year, WordPress itself, WordPress.org, the core group, comes up with a new theme. And they name it according to the year. They've been doing this for a long time. But there are also other themes out there. Those themes, by the way, are all free, and every year there's a different sort of mindset to the theme. But there are other themes out there. You'll see Ocean, WordPress, Elementor, Astra, and what a theme really does is it contains all of the styles for the WordPress website, but it also contains the functionality, and it governs, in a sense, how the back end of the site, the real back end, which is the database, how the database is turned into web pages. And just to get a little technical here, that's all done with a programming language called PHP. So you can think of a theme as a number of PHP templates that interact with the WordPress core software and the WordPress database to produce your actual web pages in HTML, another language that people can see. Now, PHP itself is, as programming languages go, not a very difficult one to see and learn. And so people can often write their own themes if they're sort of technical, pretty technical. But you don't have to. You can pick one of the themes that you find off the shelf, and you can pick it because it has a design that you like, or you can pick it because a lot of other people use it, which is kind of a safe bet. There are lots of kind of rules that you can apply when you're evaluating themes. But really the main choice comes down to whether you're going to acquire one of the free or premium WordPress themes, or whether you're going to build your own or have it built for you. Back to you, Mark.
Good stuff. Yeah, I like it. Lots to talk about. So speaking of themes, let's talk about off-the-shelf, themes like available through WordPress and custom themes.
Right. So this is a it can be a tough choice. There really are so many themes out there that you probably can find one that looks a little bit like what you'd want your site to look like, but you will need to customize it. It will not be in your type styles. It will not be in your colors. It will not look like, someone who's aware of your organizational identity built it. So we don't want to be fooled into thinking that there's going to be a theme out there that we can just get and use. There will be some customization involved anyway. And what you may want to be thinking about when you think about that amount of customization is whether you're better building something from scratch that's really custom, or modifying something that exists to make it more like your website. And partly that comes down to budget. There are people who will want to get a free theme and not pay anything for it and customize it using only the tools that the free theme allows you to use. And you might be able to get pretty close to something pretty good that way. But there are some trade-offs, and I want to talk about those a little bit. One, it may be difficult to evaluate a theme if you're not very technical. And I have seen organizations choose a free theme and spend a lot of time trying to make it look like their site. And then, they get it to where they want it to be. And then the theme developers who built that theme have sort of moved on to other things. Now, WordPress doesn't stand still. Remember, there's this team of volunteers and developers who are always trying to make it better. So there are new releases to WordPress, major releases maybe annually, but much more often than that for minor releases. And your theme has to keep up to date with these releases in order to keep working. And if you've chosen a theme for free that the person who built it hasn't got much of a commitment to it, they might abandon it, and your theme goes, it becomes obsolete. So there's some risks in using an off-the-shelf theme. You do want to, you can look at themes and look at when they were last updated and how many people use them and so on and so forth. But and you should do a lot of due diligence. You should also try to find out how easy it is to modify the theme to make it look like you need it to look. There are sometimes themes that come with demos or free trial periods and so on. You also have to think about how a theme will fit your content needs. If you have a section on your site of ways to give, and you need to break that page up into content, and you have a certain idea of how that should work, look for a theme that will have pages like that. Make sure you're looking for a theme that is responsive. Does the theme give you web pages that scale appropriately and gracefully to phones or tablets? There are a lot of markers of quality of a theme. The difficulty comes in doing the work to evaluate them, and often you really can't evaluate a theme properly until you spring for it and buy it, unfortunately. And it is maybe worth buying a couple and trying them out. Also look at what support options are available with the theme. Is there someone you can call or email? Probably won't be calling someone, but can you email someone and can you get a response? Look in the support communities and see how that works. So all of these things are really important to look at. With a custom theme that you build, it's a little different. The theme will be built to an optimal way, considering your content management needs and your design needs. That's all built to match your content. And so building a theme often is a good idea if you are considering doing a redesign, because you can make all those decisions at once and have the developer on board while you're doing the redesign, so that it's a seamless process. But with a custom theme, you do not have to worry about design flexibility, content flexibility. The theme will be easy to modify. You will have a developer, if you need a new template for, say, a gala event, you haven't had one before or haven't had a page for that on your WordPress, you can add to your site in the way that you need to. Another thing is that off-the-shelf themes often are built to serve the widest number of people possible. And in many cases, that means they contain a lot of code that just does not apply to your organization. And that's a liability, because it means that your site will load more slowly, and there are more moving parts, that even parts that you don't need, that risk breaking. Finally, with content management tools, if you're building your own theme, you can be building your own content management tools that are kind of geared to the preferences and level of expertise of your staff. So that if you have some whiz-bang HTML coders on staff and so on, maybe the content management tools that we build would be a little bit different for that group. I want to just, before we get off of the idea of custom themes, there's a kind of a gray area, a middle ground between off-the-shelf themes and custom themes. And I would categorize these things as theme builders. Avada is one, Cornerstone, Ultimatum, they're quite, Divi, quite a number of these, and it can be confusing to people. What those do is to give you a non-programmer, someone who doesn't work with PHP, they give you a set of tools that let you build your own custom theme, and they let you do it in a sort of what you see is what you get, point and click environment. People use them. People like them. I am personally not a fan. I've had a lot of clients run into trouble with them, and these are the reasons. One, they take up a lot of resources. so that your site will load more slowly. It will be a problem. Most of these probably, unless you're going to do something like set up a Cloudflare CDN to improve your performance, it's probably not a great idea. But also because you're really locked in. You really get locked into to a set of tools that will not necessarily keep pace with the other plugins and functionalities that you're using. You don't have that problem with a custom theme. Any questions about that? I know I covered a lot in the last couple of slides.
Yeah, no, good stuff. There was a question that came in, said, I'm still not clear about the difference between theme and design. Can you show me an example to make it clear? What about themes make them obsolete over time?
Yeah, great question. What makes a theme obsolete over time is that every single thing about a WordPress website, every part of the technology from PHP, the basic coding language that themes are built on, it changes. It has releases just like Microsoft Word has releases. So in the last 2 or 3 years, we've moved from PHP 5 to PHP 7. Now, it really does change to the point that a theme was written 3 years ago in PHP 5 will have parts that will start making errors and not working in PHP 7. It's sort of like you you never update your operating system. And if you do update your operating system, i.e. your PHP, and you don't update Microsoft Word, it's not going to work. So that's how they become obsolete. I hope that clarifies it. About the question about design is that the theme contains many of the files that make up the theme are templates. And the templates are what control what web pages look like. They contain all the navigation elements and all the styles and everything. WordPress itself is really more of a database. It's really more of a database where everything is kept in just plain text. And these PHP templates that are part of the theme take all that and tell it what to look like.
So the kind of wireframes and all that are kind of set up in the page layouts, and then you put in the design elements that and the visual, the content, the imagery, the videos, etc., that kind of give it its overall look and feel.
All of that from the
Right?
page layout to the colors and the fonts is all part of the theme. Yep.
And just to kind of show an example, here's our WordPress offering, our theme that Jim and the team created. I don't know, Jim, if there's anything to kind of show off that further, just to put you on the spot, or anything to highlight here.
Yeah, what's kind of cool about this theme from a nonprofit point of view is that it was built to be a nonprofit theme, which means it has pages and page content elements that are frequently elements that a nonprofit would use. It's also built using a basic kind of building block, which WordPress offers, which are called Gutenberg blocks after the first printing presses. And it means that you can take an element that you like on this page and use it on that page with different content and so on. So it's really something that's been, even though we built it last year, we've been building WordPress themes and other content management systems and websites for nonprofits for a very long time. And this was our chance to kind of take all of that knowledge and figure out how to make a theme that would really give people a leg up, and it would be a good starting point for a nonprofit. A nice looking theme that contained a lot of the kind of content elements we know that nonprofits want. I would say, to kind of characterize our theme, what our intent is that you would buy the theme along with support and with customization. So here, this is clearly a fake conservation organization, but we wouldn't just hand off the theme, we would custom tailor it for you. So what you get is a custom theme that has been customized to your specifications.
And a great question kind of along those lines came in. I love this question. So if you build a custom theme as opposed to an off-the-shelf theme, the underlying templates can change and your website will begin to fail. Is that the case?
No, it's sort of more the other way around. If you build a custom theme, your use of PHP is going to be pretty controlled and pretty cut and dry. However, when you buy a theme, it's because they're trying to cram a lot of stuff into that theme for all different kinds of users and all different kinds of situations to make it more attractive and flashy. That's going to have a lot more code, and those are the themes that are more likely to break. Any theme can become obsolete as the software changes, as WordPress changes, as PHP changes. Any theme can become up to date. So we're always talking about making updates and new versions and things like that. But yes, if you buy a custom, if you make your own theme, you would yourselves be responsible for making updates to the code as needed. Often, an off-the-shelf theme will publish new versions of the theme. The problem is when they don't. The problem is when they stop doing that, and there's really it's hard to know which ones are in it for the long run and which ones aren't.
Good stuff. Kind of building off of that, then another question just came in. Do you get alerts about changes in a theme you've customized so you can update? And I guess I would even add to that, what kind of messaging do you get from WordPress or your site host about upgrades happening to WordPress that might affect their website?
Yeah, that's great, and I like that question. So let's tackle that in two ways. First, let's talk about plugins, because remember, plugins and WordPress software itself have to be updated from time to time. Now, when you log into your WordPress website, you will see that certain things may need to be updated. You may need to update your theme. You may be alerted that a theme update is available. You may be alerted that a new update is available to WordPress core software, or this plugin or that plugin. So on a typical WordPress website, I will probably see maybe 10 updates a month. It's kind of a lot to do. Some hosts some plugins do allow for, and some web hosts do allow for custom updates. There are some very good hosts who constantly scan their WordPress. These are hosts that specialize in WordPress. They may scan your website and tell you, this plugin has a security risk in it, and there is no update for it, so you have to remove it. Those things do happen, but I'm not sure that I'm answering the entire question. Can you repeat it for me, Mark?
No, I think that was good, and I think that another way to ask that is, or another way to state that is, so there's a few different pieces that work here, right? There's your website host who's you're going to pay for, hosting the website, and that could be anywhere from $100 or so a year on up. And something like WP Engine, you can get it for as low as $300 a year, I think it is, and they offer really good support. They send out regular updates, notifications when WordPress makes changes, etc. But then, yeah, custom themes, or any theme for that matter, any website you launch, you can't expect to just pay for it once and you're done completely. There is, even in something that's pretty low maintenance compared to anything else out there, I think, you're going to need to be ready to review security updates, software updates, and changes on a regular basis. And if you don't, there is a chance that your site might go down. So kind of along that lines, another question that came in says, so if you have a custom theme, it is necessary to have a developer or vendor who can keep your site up to date. Is that correct?
Yes, to some extent, yes. You will need someone to review probably every couple of years to review the theme and make sure that there are not any errors or any changes. That won't be a huge effort. There's another part of this too, which is if you're using an off-the-shelf theme and you customize it, unless you set that up the right way using what's called a child theme, when you update your theme, your customizations could be lost, would generally be lost. So when you buy a theme, it's not as easy as plugging it in. You have to take some precautions, and you probably would need a developer to set up that child theme. So one way or another, you're probably going to want to have someone on board who, from time to time, can give you some good advice and make sure that you're configuring things and setting things up the right way.
Yeah, I love this discussion. I love all these questions. And actually, another one came in. You mentioned earlier that the developers of the themes can go out of business. Can you expect to be notified when that happens? I'm guessing that answer is no.
Yes, unfortunately, that answer is no. I have one of our clients, Mark, has a website that was developed 4 years ago, and their theme is okay, but 3 or 4 of their plugins have not been updated in 4 years. And the choice is either to code something that replaces that plugin or to find something that does. So, yeah, you're not notified. If a theme developer decides that's it, they're not going to continue giving you updates for the theme, then you would be out of luck there. You'd have to develop it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And not to scare people, and that's we're trying to inform here and not scare. So I think the other end of that is don't expect that you have to pay, say, $15,000 a year, for example, that I know one agency charges to host and support a WordPress website. I think that's personally ridiculous, unless you're doing a lot of updates and they're providing that support and several hours, a lot of hours a month in support of that. There's no reason why it should cost that much. But I do think it's important to, have the initial build expense, either, a free theme or a cost of a custom theme, and the cost, or even if it's your personal time and your team's time to build out the content of that website, or have assistance from a third party. But also, do check-ins on a regular basis and either have somebody on your team that can look out for updates to the environment, or have some type of ongoing agreement with an agency to provide that support. But by no means do you have to spend huge amounts of money to do that.
Right. Now, and getting back to this example of my client who has a lot of plugins that are becoming obsolete, the reason that they do is they don't have a custom theme. So whatever their theme didn't do for them, which would have been done for them if they built a custom theme, they just cracked whatever nut they needed to crack by having another plugin. And then you get a lot of plugins, and you have always doing a lot of updates, and there are a lot of loose ends and potential conflicts. So that maybe is an argument for uh, for a custom theme.
Good stuff. All right, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but just if you need any questions, and I'm going to kind of turn it back over to, and I have some other questions coming in that I want to get to, and I'm not trying to make this a huge sales pitch, but if you have any questions, obviously you're on this call, so you might have them. We can help you decide if WordPress is right for you, whether or not an off-the-shelf or custom WordPress theme is right. And in fact, in the control panel, you should have two different handouts available for you to download. One is kind of an overview of WordPress, kind of a printed version of this discussion, I think. And another one is a package offering we have for a WordPress theme. That is a base package we offer. Of course, we do custom designs as well, but know that we're here. And then to that end, we also assist with integrating with third-party platforms like email tools, different forms, form assembly, different form collections for volunteers, donation forms. And a question came in specific to: is WordPress secure to collect donations? Would there be any concerns of data breach? And I will say that no. Definitely, you wouldn't be using WordPress for that. I've had a client attempt to kind of work with a custom developer to build a donation form and kind of bypass merchant services and all of that. And I was like, no, please don't do that, because PCI compliance and all the things that are taken on by merchant services and those third-party platforms will help that. But you can use things, different platforms or payment services as simple as PayPal, but even for not much more cost as far as transaction fees, something like Fundraise Up at fundraiseup.com is a great online donation tool that allows for simple embed code that you can simply copy from their admin site once you configure your forms to how you want them to look, and drop it right into your WordPress CMS, and it just codes it all for you. You don't have to be a coder to do that. And that's the kind of stuff that we can help you find the right solutions, implement them, even your CRM, be it Salesforce or Razor's Edge or what have you. So WordPress itself would not be handling the donations, and we wouldn't suggest using that database in that way. I don't know, anything to add to that, Jim?
Yeah, there are e-commerce plugins for WordPress. There are some that are pretty good, and you can configure a payment gateway in WordPress. It is, for the reasons that Mark gave, it is not something that people do all the time. The other reason is that when you're getting donations and things, you want that to interface with your CRM solution. So, that's another consideration.
The question came in kind of, what is a reasonable ongoing maintenance fee to expect? And I think that depends on the size of your site and the size of the environment being supported. But I mean, it could be as low as nothing, which I wouldn't recommend. But maybe just an hour or two a month, or even a quarter, just to have one of our developers come in and have a look and make sure everything's running great, and also available just in case something happened on the fly. But obviously you want to be proactive with your fixes. In some cases, it's just a couple hours a month just to review everything and make recommendations and any updates. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Jim.
No, some of the questions sound like, maybe like people are using WordPress already, and I wonder if any of those people have more specific questions about what they're running into.
Yeah, let's get into it. So, I mean, that's really a high-level overview of what we wanted to cover, and wanted to make sure we left plenty of time for for other questions, anything really, if you're already on WordPress or if you're considering it, if you're looking for kind of add-ons, either plugins or third-party platforms and how they work together, happy to answer any other questions. Again, that's kind of the end of the formal discussion, and we're happy to stay on and answer any questions that you might have. But also after the fact, feel free to check out other resources we have available on our blog and on our resources page of our website, along with those 2 handouts available in the control panel there. And feel free to reach out to us anytime. It can be a pretty wide and deep conversation, and it should be, and we're happy to answer those questions. Let's see. Another question just came in. We're already on WordPress and thought this was more of a functional training. Where can someone go to get WordPress functional training? Jim, this is totally just reading this now. Would it make sense for us to do kind of a generic WordPress webinar training one day, or is it usually so specific to how one's theme is and plugins that they're using, and it would need to be more specific to their environment?
Yeah, almost nobody, no 2 WordPress installations are the same. And it's, having seen many of them, being brought into existing environments, I'm always surprised at how different they are from each other. So it might be hard to do a generic training. However, there are really good resources on WordPress at wordpress.org. All kinds of training and forums and you name it.
Yeah, good point. In fact, here's WordPress.com. Learn, probably WordPress.org, get you the same thing. But some basics in there. If you have an environment, that you've kind of inherited, which we hear a lot. People come to us and say, well, we've had this site, and we just moved it off of, or our previous person supporting it's not available, and we'd like some help. We're happy to do custom trainings. Obviously we'd log in, have a look around, see how it's set up, what plugins and what theme is being used, and how the content is all put together, and we could provide custom training for you. All of our stuff is at $125 an hour, and happy to customize that for your specific needs. And no project is really too big or too small, because we're here to help nonprofits of all sizes. But always take advantage of these free resources where they can help out.
Yeah. WordPress.com is actually a paid WordPress thing where you get some support and training, and you host with them and stuff like that, potentially. So it's a little different, but I'm sure they have some good resources there too.
Great question. All right. I think that's the end of the questions, but again, feel free to reach out to us anytime. We're happy to answer those. We will be sending out the recording after the fact, and would love to hear from you if there's anything we can help with, or if you have any ideas on things that you'd like support with in the future, let us know. And have a great day. And thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you.